Tanya Chaplin, and as part of the DevSecOps Delivered series, I'm going to talk about Nexus Firewall for RubyGems. I'm going to start off in the Nexus Repository Manager. This functionality is available in both the Pro and OSS. If I click on the settings, what I need to do is add the firewall capability. So on the bottom left, you can see capability. And what we want to enable is IQ, audit, and quarantine. So there's three things we need to do. We need to tick to enable this capability. We need to choose which repository we want to evaluate against. So in this case, RubyGems proxy. And we need to tick to enable quarantine. So let's test it out. If I go into my terminal, what I'm doing here is installing a gem, and you can see immediately requested itemed is quarantine, and I get a 403 error. It's also pointed me to my RubyGems proxy repository on my Nexus repository. If I go back to my repository, what I can see here is a list of all of the open source repositories. You can see RubyGems proxy at the top, and on the right hand side I have a column IQ policy violations, and you can see this small quarantine sign here. When I click in, what I have here is a bill of materials for all of the gems within my repository, and you can see I have a couple of violations for licensing and security. If I go to the quarantine section, here I have my OX 2.80. When I click in, I get enriched metadata around this component, so you can see name, platform version, information around licensing, policies my company have made, and also the security threats. So this is a known and documented security vulnerability. I can also look at this diagram where I have a version history to 2.80 I'm using, and we can easily see with the red triangle would be a security threat. If I look at 2.81, if I click here, you can see my security threat and my policy threat have disappeared. So this is the version that I want to be using moving forward, 2.81. Put it back to 2.80. I want to find out more information around the security. If I click on vulnerabilities, if I go into this information, here you can find even more information about this CVE. So we give you the description from the CVE. We also give you enriched explanation, so we can tell you it's vulnerable to a denial of service, we'll tell you exactly where it is in the code, and we've even added an advisory deviation notice. So you can see in this example, the Sonatype security research team has discovered it's actually vulnerable from 2.01 to 2.80, not just 2.80. Detection is vulnerable by using this component, and recommendation, we recommend upgrading to a version of this component that is not vulnerable, which is what we looked at in the histogram from going to 2.80 to 2.81. We also show our working as well. So, hypothetically, what if you didn't want to quarantine this component? You can see in the policy section, it's failed the security high, which means it has a high risk CVSS. So we saw before it was a 7.5. But say if I want to release it from quarantine, what I do, go into waive. I can choose if I add the policy waiver to this repository, all repositories, the whole organization, just this component, or all components. So I'm going to waive that. Now what I need to do, go back there, and if I go release quarantine, what you can see, this component has disappeared. If I go back to my summary page, we can also see this is the component from before because I have waived the policy here.